Hello, my lovelies. I am Madam Crystal Butterfly. So, for this video, we are going to be talking about a particular writer's trope, specifically when writers reuse ideas that they used in their other stories. A very easy example of when writers reuse their ideas can be spotted in the Grimm brothers fairy tales, where in many cases their stories revolve around a young woman who needs to marry a handsome prince in order to find joy in her life. Now, is reusing ideas that you put in previous stories a bad thing? No, absolutely not. In truth, you can reuse a particular idea in several stories, and reusing that idea a lot of times can allow you to tell a completely different story. Here's a quick example of what I'm talking about. Cinderella. Girl's stepmama making her unhappy. She needs to get out of this mess, so she goes to a party, meets a prince, runs away. Prince comes after her. He's desperate to marry her. She agrees. Yay! Her life is better now because, Princey made everything good. And they did this again in their story, The Girl with No Hands. In that story, basically, young woman, family is poor, struggling, but they're all right. Until her father bumps into the devil and makes a deal with the devil that he unknowingly ends up giving away his child. But the devil can't take her because she's always weeping into her hands, and the water from her tears is just so pure that, the devil can, take her wherever he's trying to take her. So he orders her father to slice off those hands. But that doesn't work, because after her hands get sliced off, she starts crying into the nubs, because she cried pure tears into the nubs. Devil still can't get at her. So after she's lost her hands, she goes on a journey where she ends up meeting a handsome prince when she's trying to eat a piece of fruit to survive. And the prince sees her. He's just instantly so in love. So, naturally he marries her and gets her a nice pair of new silver hands. Anyway, let's look at both of these stories. Both of these stories were very dependent on a young woman, as I said earlier, meeting a rich prince in order to be happy and get out of their desperate situation. But both of these stories are completely different, even though they reuse an idea in each. So, should you continuously reuse the same idea over and over again just because it worked in your other stories and it seems to be popular with your audience? No. Because you do not want to pigeonhole yourself. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, reusing an idea is perfectly fine. But you still want to experiment with different ideas for your stories and not become dependent on a particular idea that you reuse a lot, because otherwise your stories will suffer because you will feel like it's a requirement to reuse that particular idea. Going back to those Grimm brothers. Yes, they reused the whole Prince thing a lot, but they also ventured out and told other types of stories, such as The Wolf and the 7 Kids. In this story, obviously the antagonist is a wolf and he eats a bunch of kids. But does a prince come to save the day? No. It's their mama. She comes and she rescues her children from that wolf's belly. So as you can see, completely different hero, because they weren't dependent on using the singular idea of the prince must always in some way be beneficial to saving the day of the story. It's okay to reuse a good idea, but do not allow yourself to become dependent on it. Splinter out with some other ideas. It, if anything, will help you expand your ability as a writer. And in truth, experimenting with different ideas is nowhere as near as complicated as switching out your genre, which is going to be a whole different video. Now, my lovelies, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, leave a comment, and if you have not yet, slap that subscribe button like it owes your money, and don't forget to give that little notification bell a ring. And with that, this video is a wrap. Now, my lovelies, if you please come with me as we dance